Hey, welcome everybody to the Closing Beat. Happy Monday. How you doing today? Hope you're having a good start to the week here. This is our quick market update show that we cover. We're financial advisors here at Jazz Wealth Managers. We help investors of all sizes, professional investment management, advice, education, whether you have $100 or you have $100 million. Nobody that I know has $100 million, but the point being, we give you that service no matter how much money you are starting with or have. So happy to help out. We've got a down start to the week here. We'll cover all of it, of course, but a little bit weakness to start the week. You got some comments out of Caterpillar, some earnings out of Caterpillar, Nvidia showing some weakness today, and we'll see what happens here. So off to your right, you've got the markets Dow down 200 points. That's actually not bad. We're off the lows there. We were down about 400 at one point. S&P lost 20. That's about 0.75%. The Nasdaq, of course, tech stocks were the worst on the day, losing just over 1%. Here's what happened today. You got Caterpillar reported earnings. They missed, triple whammy. We'll cover that in a minute. Guidance from Nvidia. They were lowering their revenue guidance, also sort of siding with what we saw in Davos last week as the International Monetary Fund said that the world's economy was slowing faster than expected. So investors sort of letting that news pile on little by little. Bearish sentiment there for a lot of people there. Today, the semiconductors told the story, so we're going to kind of cover that. Let's just dive right into this here. Enough messing around. Here's the S&P 500 stuck right at that resistance line. We know that this is a major decision point here for the markets. If you're someone who believes in technical analysis or just happens to notice that other people believe in technical analysis, then you know that this is a big one. We need really strong earnings here. We're going to need some really positive news to take us out of that. Maybe Apple can help, but we're stuck right at that trend line for the meantime. And I say that the semiconductors told the story today because if you follow us for any length of time or you study the markets, you know that the banks and the semiconductors are responsible for what the S&P does. A large portion of it, it's over 33% now, is made up of the S&P semiconductors and the banking stocks. And because of Nvidia today, because of Intel as well, you have weakness in the semiconductors from the start, right? So as soon as the day began, so you kind of expect that today was just going to be one of those red days. Now, if you go in a little deeper and you just kind of follow the minute by minute here, you notice that the semiconductors did come up off their lows. That helped sort of support everything as far as not being a disastrous down day. So not too bad there, but again, semiconductors led the way there. And the Russell 2000, I just want to point out, that one really didn't sell off that much. That was your best performing index out of all of them today. Only lost about 0.5%. Very, very, you can't say that's strong, but you can say that's something, right? That's a hint of strength right in there. Sorry to be general about that, but that's basically what you get there when you start comparing all the sectors. Look, you got the Fed meeting, starts tomorrow. We'll, of course, have the press conference on Wednesday. We'll see how things go. That's going to be a market mover for sure. This week, you got 122 names in the S&P 500 reporting earnings. So if you have plans, it's going to be a busy one. You got 325 names overall reporting earnings that are not a part of the S&P. That could be a part of the Nasdaq or what have you. So big time week for earnings. Not the biggest, by the way. Next week is, but this will be a big one for sure. I tweeted this out a little bit ago that 64.7% of the companies have beat on earnings so far, and 55% have beat on revenue. You go, well, that's pretty good. That sounds like pretty good there. However, while that's high for the moment, earnings, if you follow this sort of thing, earnings per company tend to drift lower towards the end of the earnings cycle. So we like to start as high as possible. If we could break 70, that's where you got a little cushion to let that number come back. I don't know if that matters to you. So far, revenues are coming in at the lowest levels since the third quarter of 2016. So it's not great, right? You see sort of, you can cherry pick some of these companies that have good or bad earnings, but generally speaking, it's not very good so far what's going on. Still very early. We got plenty of time there. All right, that's the broad-based indices and what to expect. Let's go over into sector news. You got oil, crude oil, still messing around with that $54 a barrel number. Look, earlier today it sold off over 3%. You still have oversupply here in the States. You actually had a little help from Saudi Arabia late in the day where it came out and said they were going to cut even more production than the voluntary cap that they already have in place. So that was good news. And then you had the U.S. sanctions late in the day come out against Venezuela. There was a whole thing on TV about, you know, putting sanctions and recognizing Guandano, I can't say his last name, as the new president of Venezuela. So that did spark a tiny, tiny little rally in the price of oil. However, you can see if you follow this sort of analysis here, $54, that's your sticking point in the price of oil. You really wouldn't expect much exciting to happen until we break up and or above that. Real estate investment trust. Remember, Friday was a stop loss day. So investors that had bet on this falling lower covered their positions. You got a little bit of a bounce. Today, you got lower interest rates, of course, that helping the real estate investment trust. This is one of the better performing areas, by the way, almost back to highs. Look at from December, that big sell-off, of course, market-wise as well, big sell-off. This has almost recovered all of it. I believe it is the closest area of the market to those recent highs. Here's just another look at REIT ETF, FREL. That's a Fidelity-based one. So kind of interesting there. They're obviously picking up steam and looking good. Bitcoin, if you follow that, that broke down again. Not really a breakdown from the traditional technical perspective, but broke down another 4%, just hovering right at lows. I watched the funniest, I couldn't remember the name of it, the funniest thing last night. John McAfee running for president, sort of as a joke, publicity stunt, I think. He seemed pretty serious about it. Anyways, I can't even say it. How do I say it so it's clean? He has a deal with everyone. If Bitcoin doesn't hit $1 million by 2020, he will eat his own, excrement, I guess. I want to keep it clean, but it was just so funny how dead serious this guy was. Well, you talk about a guy that's been through a lot, man. I don't even want to know. Okay, stay on track, Dustin. Let's stay with this. Healthcare, by the way. Healthcare, to me, setting up for a little bit of a bounce here in the short term, and so I dug a little bit deeper. From a technical perspective, you go, okay, looks pretty solid here, like there's a chance for a little bit of a bounce. What are the top holdings in the company? You got Merck and you got Amgen. Merck and Amgen are the top holdings in the XLV, which is a healthcare ETF. Merck is at 5.6%, Amgen at 3.75%. Those are the top holdings. You got Merck that's going to report on Friday and Amgen that reports tomorrow after the close, I believe. Yeah, tomorrow after the close. So because of that, makes it a little bit difficult to kind of place any short-term bets, in my opinion. But I think you see some strength here out of healthcare if you're following along. That's all I have sector-wise as far as the things I wanted to go through there. Let's go through some individual stocks, then I'll get out of your way. In the news today, you're going to see all about Caterpillar. Let's work together. I don't want to do that. Caterpillar, so shares were lower today. Really very bad day. Almost 10% on the day. This is what I referred to earlier as the triple whammy. The stock missed on earnings, actually by quite a bit. They missed by 14% on earnings. They missed on revenue. They guided lower. They said a lot of bad things going forward about sales in China. The company has 53.6% of their overall revenues coming outside of the United States, and it's slowly increasing. I mean, they're a big company, so it doesn't go up that much. However, the amount of revenues they get outside the U.S. is 20% higher than its closest competitor. So when a company who gets the majority of their revenues from overseas says that overseas are not going well, not only is that a look into what the company is experiencing, but the sheer size of this company lets you know that generally, okay, things could be slowing down over there. So it wasn't looked at so much as this one stock suffering a little bit, but it was also people looking and going, okay, the world may be experiencing some issues as well. And so that sort of helped. Well, that helped your downside today. Nvidia, they didn't report earnings. They actually just came out and said, hey, the fourth quarter was very tough. I'll give you the quote in a second, but they said the fourth quarter was very tough, and because of that, we're lowering our revenue expectation $500 million. So $500 million if you want to make a bigger headline about it. Of course, that's not good. Now, they make up 5.7% of the semiconductor sector, so you can imagine the sort of pressure that put on the semiconductors today, and that's why I referred to them as kind of telling the story. Now, Nvidia, they're going to, where are we at here? Here's what the CEO said. I thought this was interesting. The CEO actually said the fourth quarter was an extraordinary, unusually turbulent, and disappointing quarter. So you go, why would a CEO say that? Why wouldn't they always be positive? That is a real-time view of a CEO lowering the bar for earnings. You know how we always say, like, analysts will say we expect them to make so much, earn so much, show so much in sales and growth and global sales and all this stuff. That was the CEO literally telling the analyst, you better lower your bar, right? We're not going to get there. Ding us now, because if you wait until earnings, it's going to be that much worse. So they gave the heads up. It's totally legal, happens all the time. And so the stock retreated back to all-time, or nearly those 52-week lows there. PG&E, the stock was very volatile today. I believe it was halted 3 or 4 times throughout the day. There's a handful of offerings for short-term financing from some different equity funds, hedge funds, things like that. There's a handful of those deals. However, it may be too late. Tomorrow, they're actually expected to file for bankruptcy. They may just change the numbers a little bit. Today, if you're in California, they're having a state meeting, although this is more of the dog and pony show, so really nothing sort of drastic should come out of that. Versum, if you follow this one, Versum's being bought by Integris, was it? Let me see. Is it Integris? Yeah. So Versum being bought by Integris. This is kind of interesting because these guys make the chemicals that go into the semiconductor chips. So you're seeing consolidation already in a slowing sector. And I think that's good news. So if you follow that sort of thing, that's pretty cool. Could be an interesting mix there. If you own those positions, it's just going to be a bit of a mess for a moment. Vale, there you go. So Vale up on the screen there. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the news, the whole Brazilian dams that have broken over there. But basically, the company was almost 20% lower on the day. They have suspended their share buybacks. They have suspended the dividend if you're investing. They're not paying out the dividends for the time being. They have suspended corporate bonuses. Look, that's a big deal. What's going on over there? 60 people dead, 292 missing as of a couple hours ago. So that's why that stock's being beaten down today. And that's pretty much it. Tomorrow, you got Apple reporting after the close there. Everyone's going to be looking at that one. Apple beats 88% of the time, by the way. This one's going to be a really interesting one because, remember, they lowered the bar themselves, but they beat 88% of the time. The stock is higher 58% of the time the next day after reporting earnings. I think it's going to be interesting. Guidance is going to be a big one. People won't necessarily care too much what the number comes out as, so much as how they talk about things going forward. Also in earnings tomorrow, you got Biogen, HCA, Lockheed Martin, 3M, Pfizer, some big down names there. Pulte Homes, Verizon, Apple, Amgen, and eBay, although everyone's pretty much just going to be looking at Apple after the close there. So that's that one. And then I'll throw my comment in there. I've got time here. Wells Fargo. You had Elizabeth Warren come out and say that the current CEO of Wells Fargo is basically a crook and should not be the CEO. You guys know how I feel about Wells Fargo. However, for them to come out and say that is just total distraction, man. What a waste of time. It just kills me when government sort of chimes in like that. Shouldn't you guys be working on something else? I mean, seriously, you got time to just sit around and badmouth people? I'm one of those that's like, look, we all pay you to go to work and make this country a better place. Quit bad-mouthing people, man. Leave that up to the Twitter folk and YouTubers that comment on other people's things. All right, that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take a look real quick. Yeah, Bitcoin, yeah, breaking down there, but I still see some of you are very bullish on that one, some of you not. That's all right. I have no opinion. I was never a fan. I have numerous videos saying it's just not for me. Not that I'm not interested in an interesting investment. I don't buy it. I still don't buy it. Too much going on there. Okay, so that's all I have for you. I'm going to wrap it up there. Remember, the dojo coming out later this week. Very excited about that. Wednesday, we're going to be releasing it to our customers, and I'm going to make a few more videos. Maybe I can post up there to help you guys. Yeah, that's all I have for you. Enjoy. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, wait! Before you go watch one of our other great videos, have you had a chance to see our new FinTips videos? They focus on one topic at a time, covering investing, personal finance, and anything that can quickly help you with your dough. Best of all, we'll keep it real short, because we know time is money.
Why should you choose Jazz Wealth as your retirement or long-term investing service? Our portfolios are managed by us, not some faceless mutual fund manager. Our private classes will teach you everything about investing and getting your dough straight. Best of all, our fiduciary standard means your best interest comes before ours.